Peru is a country situated in the Pacific side of South America. It's a convergence of varying environments, climate, geography, culture, and culinary excellence. This diversity in landscape and rich cultural heritage dating back to the ancient Inca civilization is defined by the Andes. These mountains run north-south, dividing the country into 4 broad climatic regions. They're the coast, the Andean highlands, the eastern lowlands, and the Amazon rainforest. Peru, in my opinion, is one of the only few countries with an extraordinary geography for its size. This country accounts for 13 of the 32 climatic zones, which puts Peru in 4th for the most climatically diverse country in the world, only sitting behind countries much larger in size such as the US, China, and India. This making Peru a hotspot for exploration and adventure seekers, as many of the different regions can be accessed within one country in a relatively short distance. It's bordered in the north by Ecuador and Colombia, Brazil in the east, Bolivia in the southeast, Chile in the south, and the Pacific Ocean along its west. The country's vast mineral, agriculture, and marine resources have long served as economic foundations of the country, and by the late 20th century, Peru had become a major tourist destination. It's home to 12 UNESCO World Heritage Sites and 84 of the planet's 117 life zones. Spanish is the official language of Peru. However, 47 indigenous languages are spoken in the country, including Quechua and Aymara. While the Inca is the most well-known, Peru is home to a plethora of civilization dating back earlier than the Inca Empire. Though Spanish is the official language, communication in English isn't quite difficult, especially in tourist areas such as Lima, Cusco, Aguas Calientes, and the desert oasis of Huacachina. But one should familiarize themselves with basic Spanish and phrases. This goes not only for Peru, but any country you visit. Important phrases to know in Spanish are hola, gracias, no gracias, baños, menu, desayuno, comida, cuánto, no hablo español, por favor, and many more. It's also helpful to know the numerals 1 through 10. I would also recommend downloading the Google Translate app. As stated, climates and weather are vast and they vary, so one should research what the weather is like the month they're going for each region they're visiting. With that said, essentials to bring regardless of the location and weather are shorts, all-weather pants, all-weather jacket, rain poncho, hat, chapstick, sunglasses, gloves, a wind-resistant mask, nail clippers, and comfortable shoes that can double as casual and for trekking. Peru uses Type A, B, and C power plugs and operates at 220 volts and 60 Hz. While much of the northern parts of Peru operate in Types A and B, parts of the region in the southern parts of Peru operate on Type C power plugs. However, sometimes you'll find other countries' power plugs when staying at hotels and hostels. The official currency of Peru is the sol, or soles. However, the US dollars is sometimes accepted, but there may be a disadvantage of using US dollars as exchange rates fluctuate. Banknotes come in denominations of 10, 20, 50, 100, and 200 soles, while the coins come in denominations of 1, 2, 5, and 10 soles, as well as 5, 10, 20, and 50 centamos. Tipping isn't widely common in Peru, however, higher-end restaurants do expect a tip. Out of all the things to tip, I do recommend tipping your tour guide. Prices for foreigners tend to be inflated at local markets and street vendors, so make sure to barter as it's common practice. Modes of transportation will depend where you're at, but common transportations are taxis, Ubers, tuk-tuks, buses, vans, and shuttles called colectivos. You can also rent a car or a motorbike. For long-distance travel from Lima to Cusco, you'll have to take a 1-hour flight. On this journey, I didn't rent a car or a motorbike, though after coming home, I realized the best way to travel Peru is by road trip. There's just too many destinations and different sceneries in Peru. Road tripping would greatly help with that, as well as bring a more authentic experience. The next time I'm in Peru, this will be the way I travel, by car or by motorbike. Tourism in Peru is quite popular, so beware. The destinations you're heading to may not be pleasant, as they most likely will become tourist traps. Plan accordingly and always try to go early when doors open to any sites, ruins, tours, and any excursions and trekking you're thinking of doing. Is it cheap to visit Peru? Yes and no. While many things here are cheap compared to the prices in the States, there are also many things that are not. When it comes to travel cost, it can be as cheap as you want or expensive as you want, so budget accordingly. Budget for flights, lodging, transportation, food, activities, and souvenirs. Peru has many things to offer whether you're a solo traveler, couple, group, or with family. This country is as vast as it is distinct. This capital by the bay is a convergence of culture and trends of its people and geography. Here, visitors can find every corner of Peru represented in some form or another. Located in the country's arid Pacific coast, it's made up of 43 districts and is a bustling city that's home to more than 10 million people. It was founded by Francisco Pizarro in 1535, but indigenous population has settled in the area around it for thousands of years. Even with the recent protests, in the 21st century, Lima has relatively enjoyed a prolonged period of political and economic stability. This metropolis is filled with both colonial-era architecture and modern-day skyscrapers. Numerous museums, galleries, and historical landmarks are scattered throughout the city. Lima is the gateway to Peru, and most likely will be your first destination before heading anywhere else in the country. Upon landing in Lima, one thing that's surprising is how reddish-brown the entire landscape is. While researching and seeing many photos of Lima, it's another thing to experience it firsthand. Being an international city, visitors won't find communication in English difficult. There are a plethora of things to do in Lima, from relaxing at the beach to visiting historic sites, museums, galleries, restaurants, and the buzzing nightlife. This metropolis is not only an international city, but a melting pot with a long history of migration from all parts of the world, including Asia, Europe, and Africa. Not to mention the internal migration of the many indigenous people within Peru. When it comes to food, this translates to a diverse and rich culinary culture. Peru is in the midst of a gastronomic boom, and Lima is the epicenter, filled with a variety of delectable cuisine. What this city is known for is its delicious seafood, so make sure to try their seafood option in the menu. But whatever you're in the mood for, Lima has got your taste buds covered. One of the first places I recommend visiting is Costa Verde. This stretch of road is both a highway and a scenic walkway that stretches from Cayo to Chorrillos. Located on top of the cliffside overlooking the Pacific are the districts of Miraflores and Barranco. Miraflores is a residential and upscale shopping district. Here, visitors will find the luxuries of a modern city. This location is lively and more centralized to the action, but does have areas where it's quiet and mellow. Wandering through Miraflores, one can encounter families hanging out at the park and along the coastline. It's quite a safe place both day and night. There's also a shopping center located right on the edge of the cliff. This coastline neighborhood reminds me a lot of San Francisco in the Bay Area, with its mellow vibe, rolling fog, misty atmosphere, and overall comfortable weather, though it is much cleaner than San Francisco. If you only have a limited time in Lima, this is the place I recommend visiting. The neighborhoods of Miraflores, Barranco, and San Miguel have access to the coastline walkway. Some of the things to do in Miraflores are walk along Costa Verde, go to the beach, surf, go fishing, bike ride, paragliding, shopping, visit local markets, and taste the countless cafes and restaurants available. Next door to Miraflores is the district of Barranco. This place has an artistic vibe with murals scattered throughout the district, and is home to many of Peru's leading artists, musicians, designers, and photographers. It's also known to have many cafes and bakeries throughout the district. While it neighbors Miraflores, Barranco is a lot quieter and more relaxed. Overall, Barranco is quite safe, especially towards the coast, but does have certain areas that warrants more caution when wandering, though I never felt unsafe wherever I walked. This region has two distinct seasons, which are summer and winter, with transitional periods in between. Winter runs from June to October, and summer from January to March. The best time to visit is between December and April, with temperatures that go as high as 80 degrees, though it does get humid. With a city located in high desert, it never gets proper rain, but rather experiences drizzle. When it comes to transportation, you'll find many available including taxi, colectivos, Uber, airport shuttle, bike rental, car rentals, and tuk-tuks. You can also rent a motorbike if you're planning to motorbike through the country. Colectivos cost as little as $1, but make frequent stops. Uber is also a very convenient way to get from one place to another, and is also quite cheap. But an important thing to know when using Uber, especially at the airport, is they don't vet their drivers as well as they do in the States. So you might get a sketchy ride. Once a car arrives, double check the license, the vehicle, and the driver. If you don't feel comfortable, you can always cancel the pickup. While I didn't have any bad experiences, drivers usually don't follow the route on the app, but rather take back roads and longer routes. Overall, they're fairly safe, but just use caution. My recommendation is to take a taxi to and from the airport. They have a good reputation and they're licensed. Once you've landed, you can take one of the several taxis outside the airport. Taxi drivers will be lined up in front of the gates. Just look for a badge or go to the airport concierge and request a taxi. Taxis to Miraflores is about $21 US. It's about a 45-minute to an hour drive. Uber is about $10 US, which is half the cost of a taxi, but isn't as reputable as taxi drivers. Once you're situated and have all your luggage at your accommodation, I recommend taking Uber thereafter. Lima being an international city, one can find accommodation for most budgets. If it's your first time in Lima, places to look for lodging are Miraflores, Barranco, or San Miguel. Lodging one can find range from couch surfing, work stays, hostels that range from $10 US a night, entire Airbnbs from $30 to $70 US a night, as well as hotels and luxurious resorts that start around $400 US and up. On this journey, I stayed at the neighborhoods of Miraflores and Barranco. This was Giovanni's place, located in Miraflores, that cost $40 a night. His entire place was clean, furnished, and his communication was excellent. This 2-story condo is located in a quiet neighborhood. The building is gated, with security at the main entrance. The best thing about this condo is the windowed wall, though there isn't much to see outside. Across it is another condo. If you're staying in Miraflores, I recommend checking this place out. Links to lodging in the description below. Exploring the streets of Lima, specifically Miraflores and Barranco, I really like the vibe here. I would go as far as consider living in Miraflores, but that's coming from someone who loves overcast weather, rainfall, and misty mornings. From its stunning coastline and rich cultural heritage, to the vibrant nightlife and delicious cuisine, there's so much to discover in Lima. If you want to ease into your adventure in Peru, wandering around Lima is a great place to start, before venturing off in other regions of the country. Paracas is a small coastal town located about 152 miles away from Lima, in the Ica province of Peru. The small fishing town is a jumping off point to Islas Ballestas and home to the Paracas National Reserve. This national reserve is the oldest marine reserve in Peru and consists of 3,355 hectares of area. The main village of El Chaco is quite small, filled with hotels, hostels, restaurants, and storefronts. Since this is a fishing community, I would suggest trying a seafood dish such as ceviche. Activities you'll find here are dune bugging, sandboarding, sledding, and visiting the Inca Tambo, Colorado ruins. But the main attraction of this town is the access to the islands. Getting to the island, you'll need to purchase a ticket and have a tour boat take you there. It costs around $15 US for the tour. You'll then hop on a speedboat and make your way to the Ballestas Islands. A bit of caution, if you're easily seasick, I recommend sitting on the outside of the boat or ask for a bag from one of the boat operators. The islands are about 30 to 45 minutes away. As you make your way to the islands, you'll encounter several birds flying by. As the boat approaches the peninsula, on your left is one of the many Nazca lines etched into the earth. These lines are a group of geoglyphs made in the soil of the Nazca Desert throughout the southern parts of Peru. This particular glyph is called the Paracas Candelabra and is measured to about 590 feet in length. This one is about 2,500 years old, and its meaning remains a mystery. They were created by the Nazca culture, one of the many pre-Columbian civilizations of Peru. These lines were designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. They are best viewed by plane. As the boat cruises further into the ocean, the closer to the island you get. Islas Ballestas is known as the Peruvian Galapagos, or the poor man's Galapagos, because of its fractional cost to get here, compared to the Galapagos Island located in Ecuador. And unlike the Galapagos Island, you can't dock on shore and walk around. Ballestas is made up of 3 major islands, where visitors can witness several marine life in their habitat. These include penguins, sea lions, pelicans, and many other bird species. Visitors will also encounter some of Peru's guano mines. Guano is an accumulation of seabird and bat excrement, and before human intervention, many of these bird droppings have accumulated for many years, leading to formations of islands and mounds at sea, which ultimately became a high source of commodity. They are mined for manure, as guano is a highly effective fertilizer due to the high content of nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium, which are all key nutrients that are essential to plant growth. They are also, to a lesser extent, sought out for production of gunpowder and other explosives. In the 19th century, the harvest and sale of guano became a lucrative industry worldwide, shipping to the United States, Britain, France, and many other European countries. From 1840 to 1870, Peru exported 12 million tons of guano, worth $500 million US, hence its nickname of white gold, and Paracas as the birthplace of this global industry. But like any mining activity, it's labor intensive. With this came a resource curse that exploited and undermined the lives of locals, animals, and the ecosystem. From loosening and shoveling guano to purifying, loading, and filling up ships with this commodity, it took an average of 8 months. As the price of Peruvian guano increased, countries began seeking lower-cost alternative, which led to the end of the guano boom. While the peak of the guano trade has come and gone, these mines are still in operation and the white gold are still being dug. The history of guano is quite fascinating and dark. There are several documentaries about this subject. If interested in learning more about this topic, check the description below. Depending what time of the year you go, you might experience a powerful stench long before reaching the islands. This is the smell of guano, with colder weather suppressing the odor. Huacachina is a village built around a small oasis surrounded by sand dunes that can reach heights of up to 1,600 feet. Located in the southwestern parts of Peru, within the province of Ica. It's 10 minutes outside of the city of Ica, 1.5-hour drive from Paracas, and a 4.5-hour drive from Lima. This oasis has been a long tourist attraction for locals, but has seen a spike in foreigners visiting this area in recent years. Though this site sees many tourists daily, it only has a permanent population of 100. The name comes from Quechua, possibly shortened from Huacachina Quechua, a literal translation of hidden lagoon. It's also referred to as the Oasis of America. According to locals, the water and mud are therapeutic with healing powers, where both locals and tourists can be seen bathing in an attempt to cure their ailments. The lake itself was created by natural seepage from underground aquifers. However, an increase of well drilling started to threaten the supply in the early 2000s. To preserve the oasis, local business groups began pumping water into the lake in 2015. A year later, the government announced that a Peruvian scientist would lead the project to restore the Huacachina Lagoon. But since 2020, no further news of the proposal has come to fruition. The village is quite small. One can walk through it in a matter of minutes, but I would recommend staying here for 2 nights to soak up the scenery. Like many places in Peru, it's mellow, so take your time as the locals do. If you're coming from a fast-paced society, you'll notice how slow the service is compared to your own, even when ordering a simple coffee. Just remember, this is the pace for most of the country. You're on vacation, so slow down and appreciate the change in scenery. The village has many restaurants, cafes, and shops to choose from, which are all family-owned, each one offering authentic and local dishes. I don't have any food recommendations. My only advice is to walk around the village, see what each restaurant has on the menu, and give it a try. By and large, the lodging you'll find are hostels. If you're not keen on staying at a hostel, one may find hotels and Airbnbs right outside of the village in the nearby town of Ica. Lodging ranges from $20 to $50 a night for private rooms at a hostel, and $10 to $25 for dorms. Hotels and Airbnbs range from $50 and up, with cheaper accommodation in the nearby city that range from $20 to $80 a night. If you're like myself, where you value your peace time at the end of the day, they do offer private rooms. However, if you've ever stayed at a hostel, it's a revolving door of partying and can get pretty loud each night. With that said, I still do recommend staying at a hostel within the oasis because it offers the convenience and access to the many activities you're here for. Be sure to book your lodging ahead of time, as all the accommodations within the oasis do fill up by midday. With nightfall, one can party and mingle with locals and newfound friends at the several bars and hostels around the oasis. Once the bar closes, you can find yourself in an underground 3-story rave. I would have never guessed this place existed, but as a former DJ and raver, this really made my trip. An underground rave at an oasis in the middle of the desert in Peru. But that's just one of the many great things about traveling abroad and why I personally love traveling. One never really knows where they'll end up each day, and you're constantly living in the present. Getting here, one can either rent a car or motorbike from Lima, take a public bus, or shuttled by tour, with the latter being the easiest and most comfortable way to get here. The tour I recommend is through Peru Hop. The staff is friendly and knowledgeable, paired with like-minded travelers. I usually don't book too many tours, and when I do, I usually book private and not large groups, as I can go my own pace. However, this tour was well worth it. The staff was genuinely enthusiastic about what they do and really love their country and want to show it off. It puts the extra oomph in the experience because it makes it more personable and tailored. This video is not sponsored by them, I just genuinely had a great time. You can find more information in the description below. Huacachina is located in the Ica region, which is known for warm and dry climates. Essential things to bring are sunglasses, hat, a mask, sunscreen, chapstick, and nail clippers. Since the environment is high arid desert, one may be prone to drier skin, getting chapped lips, and hangnails. A windbreaker is also a good idea to have, as it can get pretty windy. The best time to visit the oasis is during the dry season, which runs from May to September. During this time, the weather is typically sunny and dry, making it a perfect time to enjoy the many outdoor activities it offers. One of these activities is riding a dune buggy. If you've never ridden a dune buggy before, it can feel pretty intense. I would compare it to a roller coaster ride, but with a feeling of less in control, since you're not on rails. At the time of making this video, it was my 3rd time dune buggying. It was well worth the experience, but I wish there was an option to rent out a buggy and drive it yourself. I personally would have stayed longer if renting a buggy was an option. Other activities are sledding and sandboarding. Visitors can rent a sandboard and boots at the village and take it up with them while dune buggying. If you've snowboarded before, sandboarding is a completely different beast. Sandboarding is a lot more cumbersome. You constantly have to wax your board after every sand dune you hit, otherwise you won't have control of the board and it won't slide. Is it worth sandboarding? I personally don't think so, at least on this trip. But if you decide to try it, I recommend bringing your normal shoes with you so you can switch off them and sled down the dunes instead. I chose this destination because it looked unique and I wanted to experience what it would be like in a desert oasis firsthand, not to mention the many opportunities of street photography. What I got was much more than that. This journey and this location in particular ignited my newfound fascination of sand dunes and desert. This place sparked my curiosity of the amazing formation of sand dunes, so much so that since Huacachina, I visited 5 other sand dunes and counting. You can see more of that in one of my other videos called Our Long Walk, links in the description below. If you're planning a trip to Peru, Huacachina should be on top of your bucket list. And if you're a seasoned adventurer, I would rent a motorbike and ride from north to south of the country. Cusco was once the capital of the Inca Empire. It has existed for over 3,000 years and is the longest continuously inhabited city in the Americas. Today, this city is rich with culture and is a gateway to many outdoor adventures. This city is located in the southern part of Peru, situated in the Andes Mountains at an altitude of around 11,000 feet above sea level, with a subtropical highland climate that brings mild to warm days and cool windy nights. Getting here is about an hour-and-a-half flight from Lima. A one-way ticket can range from $35 to $75 US. Visitors can see the many Spanish colonial and Inca architecture scattered throughout the city, as well as visit several museums, galleries, day markets, restaurants, and cafes. As you walk through the cobblestone streets, you'll encounter street vendors, artists, performers, as well as hagglers. Cusco is a hotspot for tourism, and with that comes many people trying to sell you merchandise. If you aren't looking to buy, politely decline and simply say no gracias. Plaza de Armas. This city square is lively throughout the day and into the night. It should be the first place to go to, as one can work their way around to the many points of interests nearby. Visitors will encounter both locals and tourists sitting down, relaxing, and enjoying the scenery. This place is a great location for people watching and street photography. Visitors will also notice local patrol constantly blow their whistle. From my understanding, no one is allowed to walk on the grassy areas. If they see anyone walking on the grass, they aren't shy about it and will let you know by using their whistle. The plaza is engulfed by both Spanish and Inca architecture. A large cathedral, where an Inca palace of Huacachina used to stand, overlooks the plaza. Adjacent to the cathedral is the La Campaña church, which replaced another Inca palace by the Spanish. Inside the church are local vendors selling souvenirs and local goods. At the center of the plaza sits a 19th century fountain. The fountain was donated by New York City in 1870. There are two fountains with the same design, one being here in Cusco and the other in New York City. The original fountain had a Native American statue on top until it was destroyed by an earthquake in 1950. The fountain stood with no statue until 2011, where a gold-painted Inca was put on top. Visitors will also notice these rainbow flags flying high around the city. While this symbol has a more recognizable meaning of LGBTQ, this flag is not of that origin and meaning. It is both the official flag of the city of Cusco and the Department of Cusco. In 2021, a golden disc was added to the center of the flag to distinguish it from the LGBTQ resemblance. The golden disc has been an official emblem of the department and the city of Cusco since 1986. Because of the high altitude, you'll have to acclimate for at least 2 days before doing any extraneous activities. This includes hiking Machu Picchu, Vinicunca, also known as Rainbow Mountain, and any other hikes in the Andes. Before doing any strenuous activities, it's important to pace yourself for a couple of days so you don't get altitude sickness. It doesn't matter if you're a world-class athlete or a couch potato. Altitude sickness will get you if you don't give yourself enough time to adjust. With that said, it affects everyone differently. Someone that's not normally physically active could acclimate quicker within a day or two, while someone who's athletic might not acclimate for a week or at all during their visit. Whatever the case may be, the important thing is to pace yourself and acclimate the first couple of days. This will also give you a chance to explore and get familiar with the city. If you find yourself having difficulty adjusting after 2 days, you can either chew coca leaves, drink coca tea, or get altitude sickness pills at the local pharmacy. Oxygen canisters are also available. Proactively, you can seek advice from your doctor before your departure. It's also not advisable to drink alcohol while you adjust to the thin air. Your body may not be able to process alcohol effectively compared to being at sea level, and may prolong adjusting to the altitude. Many of the hotels and hostels do carry oxygen canisters in case of an emergency. Slow your pace and adopt to the thin air, as well as the Peruvian way of life. While visitors wander around Cusco, keep in mind the city is situated on an incline, so don't overexert yourself while still acclimating to the altitude. Since most of the activities are outdoors, it's important to bring the proper gear and clothing on your journey. While the time of the year you visit will play a role on what to bring, it does tend to get cold and windy at night. A windbreaker or a jacket, pants, a wind mask, a rain poncho, and gloves are some of the important things to bring. Other essentials to have is a hat, sunglasses, sunblock to protect you from the UV rays at the higher elevations. You'll be prone to have drier skin, chapped lips, and hangnails due to the elements, so chapstick, nail clippers, and a bottle of water are also a must. These things can become an annoyance and dampen your experience if not dealt with properly. I can't stress this enough, but stay hydrated. Visitors should also bring a good pair of hiking boots and may want to double layer their socks. If one forgets to bring an item, all essentials can be found within the city, but expect to pay a higher price as it's a tourist destination. If you're not prepared for the elements, it will wear you down quicker, and a light 5-minute walk might not be so appealing, therefore missing out on an adventure. You'll want to research what the weather is like during your visit. The beat of this country is relaxed and mellow, so services at restaurants and cafes may take a bit more time, especially if you're coming from a fast-paced society. There are a variety of lodging options in Cusco, from luxury to shoestring budgets. They range from luxury resorts, hotels, hostels, Airbnbs, couch surfing, and work stays. As for my personal recommendation, I would choose Airbnb. They tend to be much nicer, well kept, more spacious, and cheaper than hotels. You also get the entire place to yourself compared to hostels. Though some hostels do offer private rooms, you do still share common spaces with others. The cost for an entire Airbnb range from $20 to $100 a night, and the costs tend to be higher the closer you are to the plaza. I would recommend booking at least 3 months in advance. Hostels start at $10 a night for dorms, while private rooms start at $20. The modes of transportation available in Cusco are taxis, Uber, buses and vans called colectivos, train, rental car, motorcycle, or on foot. The easiest and direct way of getting around the city is by taxi or Uber. Taxis that operate in Cusco must have a license issued by the local district. It must be displayed in the front window and the rear door out the vehicle. Taxis are quite cheap, costing about 3 to 5 soles within the historic core during the day, but may fluctuate to as high as 8 soles in the evening and night. They are a convenient way to get around and are fairly safe, especially towards the city center. I recommend using them when going further distances around the city, such as the airport or train station. Colectivos, which are mini buses and vans, aren't something you'll be riding often or at all within the city. They're used more for longer transport, such as going to Ollantaytambo, the Sacred Valley, or nearby towns. For reference, it costs about 10 soles to get to Ollantaytambo from Cusco, which is about 38 miles away. Train is the most popular means to visit Machu Picchu in the Sacred Valley. There are 2 trains that operate. They are the Inca Rail and the Peru Rail. You can find more information in the respective website. Links in the description below. More information on how to get to Machu Picchu later in the video. One can also rent a motorbike. If you have the time and are more adventurous, I would recommend motorbiking through the country, or at least parts of it. I didn't motorbike on this trip, but next time I'm in Peru, this will be how I see the country. The best way to get around the city is on foot. Cusco is filled with many interesting and unique things at practically every corner, including local indigenous people and alpacas. A great way to get to know the city is just by walking. While petty crime does happen, Cusco is a relatively safe place to walk around during the day and night, especially towards the city center. I felt safe wherever I went, even with camera gear. But like many populated cities and urban areas around the world, use common sense and always know your surroundings. A good rule of thumb is safety in numbers. There are many things to see and do within the city of Cusco. The following is a short list of places to check out while you're in the city. There are a plethora of tour agencies and guides located in the city, especially in the city square. A lot of them only take cash and are only available as a group. If you're a solo traveler, you'll be bunched in with other travelers to meet the minimum requirement. I recommend asking if the tour group is large or small before deciding to book it. I try to avoid large tour groups because it hinders the experience. One of those tours I recommend is the ATV tour to Apukonaktianin, which means Abode of the Gods. It's a museum and sculpture park located 45 minutes away in the Poroy district. From the plaza, visitors will be shuttled to the district before taking ATVs up and down the mountainous terrain. The tour will stop at several vista points where visitors can witness the breathtaking views of the Andes. It's a half-day tour that is fully worth the admission. Just riding the ATVs off-road is worth taking. Apukonaktianin has sculptures that depict the gods of the Andes and the Incan deities. At a high altitude, it offers an incredible view of the Urubamba Valley. These highly detailed sculptures are carved directly into the mountain and range between 49 to 56 feet. The sculptures are by local artist Michael Di Titan and his team, which aim to celebrate the Andean culture. The park opened in 2021 to coincide with Peru's bicentennial year of its independence. During my visit, the museum was only 60% complete, and the construction had been delayed several times due to the pandemic. There are many destinations outside of Cusco to trek and explore. They include Humante Lake, which is a turquoise lake engulfed by the Andes. It's the most beautiful and sacred lake in Cusco, and something you'd expect in the Caribbean Sea, but instead is hidden between the mountains. It's about a full day's worth of trekking. Another place to have on your list is the Sacred Valley. These fertile lands form the heart of the Inca Empire and stretches to about 40 miles, and are home to many small villages, towns, ruins, and other sites, each one worth a visit, which is more of a reason why I recommend motorbiking Peru. It was not until after I arrived home that I realized this country should be experienced by motorbike. Other places to see are the ruins of Morai, the salt mines of Maras, which predate the Inca dynasty by about 1,000 years. The hundreds of terraced ponds are part of a complex evaporation system designed by the Chanapata, one of the earliest civilizations of Peru, and the staircase terraces of Ollantaytambo, which is also the start of the 4-day trek of the Inca Trail. Depending on the length of your itinerary, my advice is don't be greedy. If you have a limited amount of time, you don't have to see every sight in your journey. One can always come back. It's better to enjoy the places you can at a comfortable pace than to rush through as many destinations and not fully appreciate them. Whether you're interested in exploring ancient ruins, exploring local culture, seeing the many parks with your family, or enjoying the outdoors by yourself, Cusco has something for everyone. This small quaint town, situated in the misty mountains, is the gateway to Machu Picchu. It has a population of about 4,500, but hosts an average of 10,000 tourists weekly. It was founded in 1901 by local farmers and was used as a campground for railroad workers. But in the 1970s, with the completion of the railroad, hydroelectric power plant, and tourism to Machu Picchu transformed this village into a thriving town. Aguas can only be reached by train or trekking the Inca Trail. There are no paved roads that lead to this town. This place is a hidden gem and is overshadowed by the ruins. If the ruins didn't exist, but only this town, I would still recommend going here. It offers a unique experience from the rest of the country. Walking through town felt serene with a sense of purpose. I don't know what it was, but I felt energized at this place compared to anywhere else in the country. Before arriving in Peru, I was already seasoned by trekking 4 other countries, with Peru being the last leg of my journey. I was practically running on empty, but throughout my stay in Aguas, I felt refreshed and rejuvenated. Maybe it was a change in scenery and climate, from arid desert to lush misty mountains. If you're approaching your rest day during your trip or still planning your journey, this might be something to take into account and have Aguas be a place to relax. Aguas is beautiful, clean, and peaceful. Here you'll find a sense of tranquility from the soothing sounds of the river flow, a rejuvenating atmosphere that creeps through the steep mountainside, and a sense of clarity from the surrounding ambience. The town has a very unique character that I can't explain, but should be experienced firsthand. If you love visiting small towns and villages, especially up high in the mountains, this should be on your bucket list. Here you'll encounter friendly locals and travelers alike, as well as children playing a pickup game of soccer. This place can become a tourist trap, especially during the peak season, which run from June to September, so be aware. I would highly recommend going off-season so you can better enjoy yourself, the views, and of course Machu Picchu, not queued up in long lines. Visitors will see several dogs roaming the streets, including the Peruvian Inca orchid, the country's national dog. It's also known as the Calado, which means naked, for its hairless body, though it does have a small patch of fur on top of its head. town is filled with restaurants, cafes, bakeries, bars, and storefronts. There are many to choose from when indulging in local cuisine. One of these dishes is the alpaca, the other being the guinea pig. Besides food, other activities visitors can do is taking a dip at one of the natural hot springs located towards the top of town. You can also get a traditional Inca massage, which after a long trek feels godsend. Right outside of the train station, one can indulge in shopping at the local market, filled with souvenirs, textiles, and many other handcrafted material. Besides exploring the narrow pathways, one can hike the outer boundaries of the village, where you'll find yourself in isolation with nature, with nothing but the flow of water and the sounds of birds to calm your nerves. Just a few steps outside of town, it'll feel like you're far away, encompassed by dense vegetation. Before going, make sure to know what the weather will be like during your visit. This is the weather in late September to early October. It's wet, cool, but still had plenty of dry periods. An important thing to have is a rain poncho or an umbrella, which can be bought at any convenience store in Aguas. Bug repellent is also essential to have, as one might get bitten by insects, including while trekking through Machu Picchu. This place is quite safe to roam around solo both day and night. I never felt unsafe at any parts of Aguas. There are also police presence to keep the peace, as this is a tourist hub. For lodging, there are several options to choose from hostels, hotels, Airbnbs, and resorts. The price for lodging range from $15 to $50 to over $500 for suites at luxury resorts. I would recommend staying at least 2 nights here to better soak up the atmosphere. If you're limited on time, it can easily be explored in one day. The simplest way to get here is by rail from Cusco, either riding the Inca rail or the Peru rail, the newer one being the latter. If deciding to ride by rail, you must purchase a ticket ahead of time. There are 2 types of train carts, Expedition or Vista Dome. Both are comfortable and have large seats and windows, but the difference is the Vista Dome has a more of a panoramic view, a table, as well as entertainment. You can find more information in their respective websites, links in the description below. One can also catch a colectivo or taxi from Cusco, head to Ollantaytambo, from there hop on a rail to Aguas. Aguas Calientes is a charming village that deserves more recognition as a standalone destination rather than just a hub for Machu Picchu. Even during rain, the aura of this town felt different from other parts visited in this journey. If I could encapsulate this town, it would be an integration of urban within nature. When visiting, this goes without saying, but keep this place pristine, be respectful, and leave no trace behind. The city in the clouds is the 15th century citadel of the Inca Empire and stands at an altitude of nearly 8,000 feet. Approximately 200 structures make up the city center. Overlooking the ruins, one can only imagine what the city looked like during the height of the Inca civilization. The skeletal remains of this great city is a testament of the ingenuity of the Inca and was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1983. Located northwest of Cusco, these ruins are isolated by sheer mountain cliffs. It sits in the middle between the slopes of the Andes and the upper basin of the Amazon. Like Aguas Calientes, this sanctuary blends well with its beautiful natural environment. It's still one of the world's greatest mysteries what became of the Incas who inhabited the city amongst the clouds. It's thought that it was abandoned after the Spaniards conquered the Inca Empire in the 16th century. It was not until 1911 when it was rediscovered and shed light of its presence to the entire world. Today, the sanctuary draws about 1.5 million visitors annually. While tourism provides economic benefits, it also results in major cultural and ecological impacts. The strongly increasing number of visitors to the historic sanctuary must be matched by an adequate management that regulates access, diversifying the offer and efforts to fully understand and minimize the impacts. This site is highly protected with many guards patrolling the area. If visitors become unruly or break the rules, they'll be given a warning with a whistle. If repeated attempts to not follow the rules, visitors will be kicked out, fined, and banned from the heritage site, and may also carry some jail time depending on the severity. There are several restricted items you can't bring, such as drones, tripods, and gimbals. You'll be given a list what you can't bring once you've purchased the ticket. On the contrary, essential things to bring are bug repellent, sunscreen, rain poncho, breathable trekking gear, and hiking boots. And of course, a camera. While wandering the sanctuary, I was constantly being bitten by bugs. Fortunately, I met another traveler that was carrying bug spray, which helped a lot. Otherwise, I probably would have cut my trip short because it kept getting worse the longer I stayed in Machu Picchu. Before planning your trip in the ruins, one must purchase a ticket ahead of time. I recommend purchasing a ticket a couple of weeks to a month in advance, as they tend to sell out. If one is planning to visit during peak season, the earlier the better, so you guarantee the spot. They do have reserved tickets one can purchase the day of in person, but it's a bit of a gamble on the availability. For foreigners, it costs $40 to $70 a ticket. You can find more information in the description below. When getting a ticket, you'll have a window of an hour to enter the site. Once you've entered, you can explore on your own pace. I highly recommend getting tickets for the 6 a.m. entrance. You'll have the ruins to yourself for about 2 to 3 hours before a swarm of crowds starts to congest the sanctuary. I recommend doing this with all popular destinations around the world, so you aren't stuck in a tourist trap. It adversely affects your experience when you're shoulder to shoulder stuck in a crowd or queued up in long lines. Go early in the morning before the gates open, or later in the evening when gates are about to close. I've learned this many years ago when I was in Japan, and I've stuck by this rule since. This is another reason why one should stay at least one night in Aguas. Pack and get ready the night before, wake up at 4 to 5 a.m., and either catch a bus or hike to Machu Picchu so you can make it when gates open at 6 a.m. I also recommend getting a tour guide either in Aguas or at the entrance of Machu Picchu so you could learn and understand more about this mysterious city center and not just wander clueless looking at rocks. You'll have to take an hour and a half flight from Lima to Cusco. Flights range from $40 to $100 one way. Once in Cusco, there are a few ways to get to Machu. The route I took is by taxi from Cusco to Ollantaytambo. It cost about 100 soles or $26, and the ride took about an hour and 15 minutes. Alternatively, you can catch a colectivo, which only costs about $3 to $5, and the ride usually takes about 2 hours. You can catch a colectivo at the corner of Calle Pavitos and Avenida Grau, near the historic area of Cusco. Ollantaytambo is a small town. If you have time, I recommend staying for one night to explore this place, though the town can be explored in less than a day. From there, you'll board a train to Aguas Calientes. There are 2 trains to choose from, the Inca and the Peru Rail. I recommend choosing the Peru Rail as it's the more modern rail out of the 2. With the Peru Rail, there are 2 different types of carts, Expedition and Vistadome. The one I recommend is the Vistadome. It costs more, but it's more spacious, there's a table, entertainment, and an overhead view, though both carts are comfortable. You'll need to purchase a train ticket ahead of time. Tickets usually sell out weeks, sometimes months in advance. Expedition costs around $60 to $7, while the Vistadome ranged from $90 to $110. It's about an hour-long ride from Ollan to Aguas. Once you're in Aguas, I highly recommend staying at least one night, if not 2. If you can't decide whether to stay in Ollan or Aguas, choose Aguas. This town is beautiful and logistically a better decision to stay the night when going to Machu Picchu. From Aguas, you can either hike to Machu Picchu or catch a bus ride the next morning. Regardless of what you choose, I recommend getting an entrance ticket for 6 a.m. the next day. To get to the ruins, visitors will need to purchase a ticket ahead of time, weeks or months in advance, as they tend to sell out. Links to the tickets in the description below. If hiking, give yourself about 2 hours to trek to the ruins. If taking a bus, you'll need to purchase a ticket once you're in Aguas. You aren't able to book in advance, so you'll have to get the ticket there. This mountain town is small and the ticket office is located right across the river from the train station. You can't miss it. Look for this sign. It's about a 15-minute bus ride. Don't lose your ticket if you're booking a round trip. You'll need it to catch a bus back to Aguas. Otherwise, you can hike back down, which some travelers do. They hike to Machu Picchu, then take a bus back down, or vice versa. The most direct route is taking a taxi from Cusco to Poroy train station, right outside of Cusco. It's about an hour away from the city. From the station, you can take a train all the way to Aguas, either through the Inca, Peru, or the more expensive Hiram Bingham rail. The longest route is trekking the Inca Trail, which ranged from 4 to 7 days depending on where you start. You can find more information in the description below. The Mountain of Seven Colors is a stunning natural destination located in the Andes Mountains of Peru. The mountain gets its name from the vibrant colors that adorn its slopes, ranging from shades of red and pink to green, yellow, and blue. Rainbow Mountain is relatively easy to access, making it a popular destination for tourists and hikers. It's about a 4-hour drive from Cusco. To reach the mountain range, visitors have to take a 4-hour bus ride from Cusco. You'll wake up around 3 a.m. and catch a bus at Para, heading for Siquani. You'll then get off at Cusipada, where I recommend getting breakfast or buy food to take with you on your hike. From there, you'll take another transport to the small settlement of Fuliwasipada, an hour away. This settlement is the trailhead to Vinicunca and where your trek begins. The entrance fee to hike the mountain trail for foreigners is 10 soles. Make sure to bring your passport. Alternatively, one can book a tour from Cusco, which transport and a guide will be taken care of. If you're looking for a tour, links in the description below. The mountain is part of the Ausangati mountain range. These parts are sacred to the indigenous Quechuan people. It is believed to have spiritual powers. Despite its ancient history, these colorful mountains were just recently discovered back in 2013. It was entirely covered in snow. But with the effects of climate change, the true colors of the mountain was revealed. The colors are due to different mineral compositions. The pinks are from red clay, mud, and sand. The whitish color is from quartzose, sandstone, and marls rich with calcium carbonate. The red is claystone. The green is phyllite and clays rich with ferromagnesium. The brownish earthy colors is from conglomerate composed with rock and magnesium. And the yellow is from calcareous sandstone rich with sulfurous minerals. Before making the trek, it's important to acclimate to the altitude, since you're ascending to about 17,000 feet above sea level. The journey to the peak is not for the faint of heart. Even after acclimating, once you've reached the foot of the Ausangati mountain, expect to notice the drastic change of air density, where breathing becomes more pronounced. The weather changes rapidly in these parts. Essentials to have are sunscreen, sun hat, sunglasses, all-weather pants and coat, rain poncho, snow gloves for the cold, and a face mask for the wind, and a couple of bottled water. I also recommend packing light. I can't say this enough, but dress in layers. It's cold, dry, with intermittent gusts of wind. You should also have cash with you in small denominations. If you forget an essential, there are local stores, but they only take cash. It's advised to avoid trekking these parts in December, January, and February, as it follows heavy rain and snowfall. If you have a guide, he'll explain things before your hike, and even give you something to help breathe in this thin air.
We have around 30 or 35 minutes for you to take a pictures or for you enjoying the landscapes up there. Maybe your question is, Alejandro, why the short time? Because we'll arrive to 5,050 meters up there. And the problem in the same person is the headache, okay? It's the stomach sickness, the vomit, and the other sickness, okay?
It takes about an hour to reach the peak. You can also opt to ride a mini horse. Depending on the time of the year, the color of the landscape will either be dressed in lush green or golden patches. The trek from the settlement to Vinicunca is straightforward and moderate. This is 90% of the hike. The last 10% is the most difficult and steep and has to be done on foot. Along your trek, you'll encounter the locals and animals that roam the area. When visiting Vinicunca, it's important to be respectful of the natural environment and the local communities. Follow the guidelines of your tour operator and remember to leave no trace behind. Reaching the summit, you'll be rewarded with a breathtaking panoramic view of the surrounding landscape. Visitors can also get their passport stamp, take photos with alpacas, and be able to say they stood 17,000 feet up high. Whether you're a nature lover, a photographer, or simply looking for an adventure, Vinicunca is a must-see destination that should be on your bucket list. What's up guys, this is Eddie of House of Intent. Again, thanks for watching. Peru is an amazing place filled with many adventures. This video is just a glimpse of that. The best way to know a country is to experience it firsthand. Hopefully you got something out of this video whether you're planning a visit or just curious about the country. This video mainly focuses on the highlands of Peru, but there are countless other amazing places such as the Amazon that I have yet to cover, but that will be for another video. These types of videos do take a lot of time, effort, planning, and editing. If you found it helpful and informative and want to help out the channel, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you're feeling generous, you can buy me coffee in the link below. That should help me out through long nights of editing. For more information of the things talked about in the video, make sure to check out the description below. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I do read the comment section and I appreciate all the feedback and support I've gotten. Again, thanks for watching. This is Eddie and I'll see you on the next adventure.